What amount of property taxes are exempt, also known as not paid by property owners in St. Johns County? I haven't had a chance to check it out for the county, but I have kept up with the city over the years. 1 minute and 36 seconds. What can I use that for? Uh-oh. Is somebody reading my mind? Better be careful about what I say. The most important thing that I try to say at these meetings is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Nothing to you all. I got 59 seconds. The people that I want to thank are the ones that show up to these meetings. They send you emails. That's all they can do sometimes. They explain why they can't be here. And for you all to sit up there and do what you're doing today is on camera, and it needs to be out. And something needs to be done because people are not going to be quiet. And I'm glad that they're not being quiet because our vote, no matter how you vote, should be done rightly. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And when you do it the wrong way, sooner or later, we will all be judged. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Stitch at 124 La Mesa Drive in St. Augustine. I would like to request that the commission look into the reason why the Florida Republican Assembly was denied meeting at the airport meeting room. I believe this is politically, this was a political maneuver to make it harder for this group to meet, and I would appreciate you looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other public comments at this time before we close public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comments.
Okay, let's go right into agenda item number 1. Good morning, Gordon.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gordon Smith, St. Johns County Utility Department. We're here today to request, this is the second reading for administrative rezoning of 11 parcels that are owned by St. Johns County and used for government service. We're asking for a public service category. I'll quickly go through those 11 sites. This is just a map that was in the agenda package. It shows the various locations throughout the county. Just a good example, this is one example of, we had up in the northwest part in Bartram Oaks. This site we've had for many years. It was just wanted to be rezoned to PS. This is our Hastings site in the north part of our city boundaries. This is our elevated storage tank just right next to State Road 16 and 95. This is another ground booster site that we have. I'll quickly say this is our 214 site off of Water Plant Road and off of 214. Another site's North Beach. This is our water plant, and this is our sewer plant in North Beach. And this is our water booster site down in the Crescent Beach area. Lastly, this is our Watson Road site. We just constructed this project that was part of the 207 wastewater site. So those are the examples that we have requesting rezoning to PS. This is another site we have. This is was in the agenda package. So I'm here today asking for approval. And I'll be glad to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Through the chair. Can we get ex parte?
Oh, did I miss that?
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Okay. Because this is quasi-judicial, any ex parte, Commissioner?
I have none.
Commissioner Joseph?
Not that I have.
Commissioner Whitehurst?
I've had several meetings with Neil and Gordon and some of the folks from utilities. I believe that this rezoning came up in one of those meetings, and we discussed it in great detail.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Taylor?
I have none.
And I have none, sorry. Thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, seeing none, let's go to public comment.
At this time, we will take public comment on agenda item number 1. Seeing none, we will close public comment.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to make a motion to enact ordinance 2026-
25.
approving the administrative changes 2026-01 rezoning utility parcels based on 4 findings of fact.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have the capability of voting on them screen, or should we? Okay, here we go. Everybody vote.
Mine isn't up.
Okay, how do you vote?
Oh,
Can you do mine too? I don't.
There you go.
there we go.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
and that passes 5-0. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
your time.
Commissioners.
Okay, agenda item number 2 is something that we added, and it has to do with our response to Senate Bill 686. So let me start. So I made some notes. Some of the concerns that I have on Senate Bill 686, and some of the things that I would like to discuss is I think we're at a critical point in this, and I think we need to look at ways to look at our options. So one of the ideas that I was thinking about, one of the things that I was talking about with our administration is there's been options by the public wanting us to go out and just seek outside counsel and try to get an injunction against this order. So one of the things I would like to get consensus on, if we can talk about this just a minute, and I'll give each and every one of you an opportunity to talk about it if you like, is I would love to direct our legal team to do a fact-finding mission to see, what are our chances of getting, are we throwing good money after bad trying to seek an injunction when there are other ways to go forward with this? Because, one of the concerns that I have is if there's, in your legal opinion and the legal opinion of other scholars, legal scholars, that we don't have standing to get an emergency injunction, I don't want to waste the money. I want to put it somewhere else so that we can fight it in a different way. But we do need to have some kind of response to this. And so I would put that question out to the board and ask if there was anyone else that, Commissioner Joseph, you have the floor.
Yes, I've been doing some research and contacting several attorneys, 5 of them, and it's pretty interesting. They talk to me and then they don't call me back. But I did get one attorney who was willing to go ahead and do the outside counsel with our attorneys. Basically, it's the erosion of home rule. We've had the Live Local Act go over our heads. We've had the SB 180 and now SB 686. And for a lawsuit to be successful, you need to show the violation of home rule and municipality autonomy. You can procedurally due process violations. You can look at unfunded mandates. I think where the biggest place we could look is in the violation of the single subject rule. This is through my research. Could I have Mike Roberson come up, please? So the biggest impact right now is on D4 with the Nocatee. I think it's 4,400 acres. Potentially, that could be, is that right, about 6 units per acre?
Yes, ma'am. Mike Robertson, Director of Growth Management. That would be the maximum density that they could receive.
So we could get like 22,000 homes, which is bigger than Nocatee.
That is bigger than Nocatee, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, well, I mean, between not having the water, not having the infrastructure, of course, on the 19th, we're going to see if that falls into the agriculture enclave. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So anyway, I think we should do an injunction. I think the way this is the way that my motion is going to be has to do with looking into whether it's legally appropriate. And I think we do need to spend the money because on the front, we need to address home rule. And all these other commissioners have said home rule is very important to them. So I'd like to make a motion to engage Russell, and Russell is outside counsel for the county for the purpose of filing a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of SB 686 if such a lawsuit is legally appropriate. So it's saying what, is there a second on that?
Yeah, I definitely support a lawsuit. I don't know if, is that the way that we would do it?
Can I?
Okay, so can you address how we would go?
So you can give direction to the county attorney's office to talk to different outside counsel, and there are people that specialize in this type of area on constitutional issues as well as representing governments.
But I haven't had the issue, I haven't had those people who are, well, should I just say the names? Mr. Hartzell, Richard Grosso, Terrell Arline, and Ralph Brooks would be perfect for any one of those, but I don't think they're going to take the case. And Brad Russell won my case in federal court, and he's willing to work with you to figure out if there is an angle, and if not, then there's not. But he wants to work with, that's the motion I made. If I had a second, if I don't, then, I tried.
And commissioners, I'm happy to talk to Mr. Russell. I have talked to him a couple of times in the past. My understanding is he's not a land use attorney, and this is a land use issue. However, there are law firms like the one that attacked the ballot language, the one that attacked Senate Bill 180 with Weiss, Sirota, Helpman, Cole, and Bierman. They're a firm that do this kind of work. Most of you know from going to the Florida Association of Counties, Neighbors Giblin, Nickerson is one of the also big firms that does this. Locally, as well as in South Florida, you have Lewis, Longman, and Walker. So there are firms that specialize in this kind of work.
But by the time we do that, won't it be way too late? Because I think Mr. Russell was really going to look at whether it's legally appropriate. So he's looking for the actual way it was done and the research on that. That would start immediately.
Well, I can just tell you, I'm not happy with that. I think we have a great staff that can answer that question ourselves, and that would be my consensus, is that we would task our attorneys to make sure that that they're standing for this, and then go forward with an outside group that specializes in this. I'm not a big fan of just pulling a rabbit out of a hat when it comes to attorneys. This is going to be a very expensive thing for us. We have to remember that even in your case, it was over $100,000, and that was relatively minor. This is going to be...
This quality of life is going to hit us with millions of horrible
well, I understand
consequences.
that. I do understand that, but we also know that we are a fiduciary.
How about public comment?
Well, we'll get to that, sir.
Yeah,
but this is our board
Wait
time.
for public
So,
comment before you
yeah.
opine, please.
yeah, we'll
Can I say something?
we'll take care of our business first, but we will.
It's the people's business. Thank you.
Could I?
If you don't quit interrupting this board, then you will be asked to leave, sir. Please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So back to the board, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You have the floor.
Yes, I do. I actually do support what Mr. Commando just said as far as the law firm. I actually spoke to Jamie Cole. He's with the law firm that is did the injunction over SB 180. We had a great conversation. He absolutely said that we have grounds to do this. So I would fully support that. But I do think we need someone that specializes in this area. So I would fully support going forward with a firm like that.
Well, and late last night, they just won the lawsuit that attacked the ballot language on the property tax reform. So
Well, if we can actually get them, I'm in on that.
Yep.
we would, so. in
I think we can get 'em if we
conducting
pay
due
the money,
diligence to you,
so.
we need to vet
we
all
have a
firms,
motion,
figure
Ann?
out who's best for you. Well, there's already a motion and a second on the floor at this point.
There's no second.
There's no second.
Commissioner Taylor said she seconded.
She said.
No, I didn't.
No,
Oh,
she
I'm sorry.
she said she would second.
I said I would support.
Something like this, but she didn't second the motion. So we will go back to me asking consensus to direct you to contact this, whoever you guys agree with. I don't have a problem with it, to see the viability of going forward before we spend $500,000 of taxpayers' money of something that we're going to lose. So I would ask for consensus from the board. Do we have consensus on the board for that?
I've got too many questions at this point to give consensus.
Okay, so we don't have consensus. Commissioner Arnold?
Well, I just had a question to clarify what you were trying to say. We're not actually entering a lawsuit. You're just asking for a conversation with an outside firm as to
Right. Well, that's.
What's our concern on timing? I mean, I think that.
Well, I think we've got 90 days, and even though the clock is running, we've only got about 55 days left. But I think we've got time to do this.
I would just, through the chair to Mr. Commando, I want to make sure that the viability of challenging the constitutionality, of this law. What's the basis for our lawsuit?
Again, a home rule, if you don't mind me answering that question. I'm
I don't
sorry.
mind you answering that question,
Mr.
please.
Commando to answer it. I don't want to. There is.
So I hadn't heard the argument of trying to challenge the single subject rule. I haven't seen that successful as far as a legislative attack. It sounds like it would be an attack, or at least a claim that there's some infringement on home rule. That's something that we would talk with outside counsel to see what they would develop as a position to file a lawsuit or to seek the injunction.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me make a motion then. Let me make a motion to direct our legal staff to confer with outside counsel for the viability. And also, I'd love a cost analysis for this as well. Can we do that? All right, then that would be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Let's vote.
Well, I think we need to go to public comment before we do that. But Commissioner White, do you have anything?
No, I'm happy to hear public comment first, but I'm going to have a question for our county attorney's office before we vote.
Okay. All right. Let's go to public comment on agenda item number 2.
Okay, at this time, we will take public comment on agenda item 2.
Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. Thank you for your motion, Mr. Chairman. Could we please add cost-benefit analysis, not just cost analysis, but cost-benefit analysis. Also, we need a conflicts check. Never had one when we hired the current county attorney, remember? It was a 3-2 vote, with 2 of the 3 votes for the current county attorney doing nothing to get a conflicts check. And the record will reflect that Commissioner Ann Taylor asked this county attorney, before he was county attorney, for a list of his law clients. And do y'all remember what he said to her? It's really snooty. He said it was none of her business. He said it was attorney-client privilege and work product protection privilege, which is not true. For that reason, I've asked for a copy of his law school transcript. I'm just wondering, and the dean of his law school is a judge in New Orleans. She hasn't responded yet, and I think...
Mr. Slavin, would you bring this back to the agenda item, please?
Conflicts check.
Thank you.
Don't hire a law firm without a conflicts check. Don't hire a law firm without a background investigation. Don't hire another lawyer without a background investigation. And please, dear God, thank you for your motion. And we do have time, apparently, 55 days. But let's get this right for a change. Let's straighten up and sit up straight. Let's get this done right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Carpenter, 762 Pleasant Colony Lane. Mr. Chairman, I do believe that the people of St. Johns County would wholly support the cost in challenging this act. And I also believe that the majority of the people do not have faith in the current lawyer that we have at the county, who convinced us to not pursue a lawsuit in regards to SB 180. SB 180 was written to help counties who were devastated by hurricanes and needed to reconstruct. It was used then because the pure letter of that law was not precise enough to apply to counties like St. Johns County, who in a year, we had actually the best year for hurricanes since I've lived here. Which means very little damage from any hurricanes at all. So that's happening here, and I want to give you a quote that you can use as leverage in this lawsuit. The sponsor of SB 686 from Bonita Springs, a Republican named Adam Botana, when he was asked how many times in Florida this law the agricultural enclaves law might be used? His answer was probably, in total, 5 or 10 times. So the sponsor of this bill considered that it may apply to 5 or 10 properties in the entire state of Florida. On day one, St. Johns County had 6 applications. The rest of Florida has had none. This really should be renamed from the Agricultural Enclaves Law to the Paving Over St. Johns County Law. And I highly encourage you to pursue a lawsuit to get it overturned. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe McInerney, 1005 Blackberry Lane. So in taking a quick look at Senate Bill 686, which has become Florida statutes, the process is laid out for us where the applications are submitted, are reviewed in a 30-day window and decided in a 90-day window. So what has happened, so I would just put that process out there. We know about this. We know that we've got 90 days. Commissioner Murphy, you mentioned that. So the question is, what about this? What about this action then? How do we take action? I have heard or have thought that perhaps one of the applications out there could be denied. And if that happens, there would be a lawsuit, so we could engage in an active discussion about the merits of this application. It doesn't seem to approach the merits of the law, however, and in the process of arguing over one decision, all of the rest proceed. All of the rest proceed. They are certified as agricultural enclaves, and the law outlines how they can submit development plans and proceed with their development. The real approach, in my opinion, is to attack the law, the basic law. You've heard it, file an injunction, and thank you for that discussion. And why would we want to attack the law and file an injunction? Well, in my opinion, if there is no law, then there is no application. It's easier to fight one battle, to file one lawsuit against the basic law, than to try to file 6 or 7 or 8 lawsuits against applications. So from an economic standpoint, I think that you're on the right track to have the attorney talk to other land use attorneys. It does sound like we do have standing. That has been the preliminary message from other land use attorneys. So I really encourage a yes vote on filing an injunction. No law, no applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Chuck Lebanowski, 1748 North Capero. It's time we stop rolling over. Do we have lobbyists at Tallahassee that work for us? I'm just trying to figure out how 686 got through so fast and very few knew about it. I know there were other bills that were thrown up there as probably smokescreen, but to have this fly through here, I think we need to stand up and say, hey, whoa, slow down. Number one, our aquifer can't take it. We're in trouble right now. There's other counties that have had an issue with their aquifer because they're overbuilt. Now they're sucking up salt water and have to reprocess that. So we really need to stop and get the state to look at what they're doing. And I understand that there's a few counties that are exempt from this. Unreal. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Jerry Price, 242 Michael Drive. Commissioner Murphy, is there a time limit that you're asking to have this information back so we can file this? We got 55 days and counting, just like you said. And this is going to have a detrimental effect on this county and the quality of life of my kids and my grandkids here.
I would probably direct them to have it back before the next meeting.
Okay, so this will be voted on where we file this injunction or not. I think it's very important.
Well, yeah, so from what I understand, the motion, and I would also like to thank Mr. Slavin for adding that cost-benefit analysis. I want to make sure that we get that. My verbiage missed a word. I want to make sure we get that in there. But yeah, the decision to be made should be made in 2 weeks about whether to go forward with the lawsuit or not.
Okay, so I'm in favor of that injunction. We need to do everything possible that we can, and I'm not sure just having in-house attorneys is going to do it. We need to have some outside help. Now, as a taxpayer, I'm in favor of it happening. And I asked Mr. Murphy, Commissioner Murphy here before the meeting, if he knew anything about 686 before this happened, and he told me no. Do all you other commissioners want to volunteer whether you knew anything about 686 before this thing passed? Did you know? Did you know?
No.
Did you know? Did you know? You didn't know? I don't know if that's a head shaking no or not. Did you know or not know that 686 about it before it passed?
There's not a requirement for.
Okay, so let's see, go on the record that 3 answered me no and the other 2 wouldn't answer. There is a rumor out there, and I'll take it for what it is, that one of them met with a Senator Tom Leak there that voted for it 3 times. And I have a good feeling the reason they didn't answer because they didn't want to perjure themselves. Okay, so did anybody in the county attorney's office know about 686 before it passed? Did you know about 686 before it passed? Did anybody in the county government know? Did anybody in this whole county government inform any of these 5 commissioners up here? I'd like to know the answer. This is what I'm getting back. We got some important things coming up. And when you lose the consent of the governed, when you lose your moral authority to govern, and you're sitting up here making decisions on things when you really don't have the rifle to sit up there, people say, Jerry, why are you so passionate about this? Because in this country, we resolve our issues at the ballot box. But when you take that away, what are you left with? I don't want a third world country. I don't want it for my nation. I don't want it for a county. You're left with violence and corruption. I don't want that here. We need to do the right thing.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Keith Ackland, 5425 Cypress Links Boulevard, Elton. I want to encourage you to go ahead and go with the lawsuit. Yes, it may cost us money, and yes, it may run into a lot of money. What are we facing? Maybe 100, 200, 300,000? What is going to happen to this county if we don't fight it, if we just roll over? We're already seeing what's going on. We're already seeing how developers are somehow getting away with putting houses in where they shouldn't be, putting houses and developments in that are having major impacts that they should be supposed to be paying for an improvement, and yet they're not. Sometimes they're getting waivers, they're getting decreases in doing that, and this board in the past has been one approving it. We the people have put you in the position to protect us. I understand that. I served 9 years on B-52s protecting this country. Service and dedication is where you're at. Yes, Clay, I understand you're saying it is a financial part. It is going to cost. Sometimes you have to say, I understand it's going to cost, but go ahead no matter what. Because we have to make a statement. We have to let the state know what's going on. And sometimes even if a lawsuit gets thrown out, that is the impact of what you're trying to do. We're trying to make a statement to the state that we are fed up. The developers are moving away from controlling counties to try and controlling the state. This last one is a pure example of that. We have to fight back. If we, the people, don't fight back, what is the alternative? Where are we going to end up? The infrastructure, as you've been told, and you know all too well, a lot better than I probably, can't afford it. Yes, attorney fees are expensive. Finding the right one to take a case can be rather difficult. But we can't waste time. Yes, do your examination like you're saying. Put a short leash on it because it's going to take time to get it out otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Jerry Buchanan, 284 Pine Bluff. You know, I strongly supported the three of you commissioners, and one of the reasons that I did so is because I knew that you were fighters and that you really cared about the people in this county. And so many people supported you for that reason. And here we are in a situation where we have the control of our county being usurped by the state. And we cannot allow that. And so I'm just asking you, I know that it may cost something to get the right attorneys, whether it's an injunction or a lawsuit, but we need to fight. You were elected to be our fighters for this county, okay? And all I'm saying is, whatever we do, we need to do it quickly. We cannot afford to waste another day. If there's only 55 days left, we have got to do something soon. So whether, I'm not real pleased with our current attorney, so going outside to find some attorneys that know how to fight and fight for us is number one in my book. So I'm just asking you to make the right decisions with the selection of your attorney, and the cost benefit is a great idea. Just don't let it take the amount of time. Don't let it take another 5 days, 10 days. We need to move, and we need to move quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Krista Dubé, 1474 Tamaran Place. I just had a quick comment. Orange County does have 2 enclave applications, and I was wondering if the county attorney commando would be able to contact Orange County about those applications?
I think they already have. They already have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
Great. Anyone else at this time?
BJ Kalady, West City of St. Augustine. This is for everybody's information because I don't know what you're talking about halfway. And I think people that don't have computers and all that kind of stuff don't know either. Here are the project names of 6 people that we're talking about. And the reason I want to be up here and say this right now is there are developers' attorneys sitting out here, and to sit here the whole time, there's a reason they're sitting here. Some of you don't know some of the lawyers that are sitting here. It's all about money, folks. Oh, the root, the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, 6 names. North Palm Valley Road, Osceola Lakes, Adler Creek, Star 4 Investments, Heritage Development East, Heritage Development West. North Palm Valley Road, Osceola Lakes, Adler Creek, Star 4 Investments, Heritage Development East, Heritage Development West. 151 seconds. I'll use it. Good, now everybody's paying attention. I don't know, do you all use your cell phones up there? I wonder about that sometimes. Anyway, to get your help. You know, a word about the cost now. If you paid attention earlier, $300,000 salary. A lot of people don't know about that salary. I'm going to keep on talking about it. And there's benefits. We don't know anything about the benefits. I'm going to look into this, people. If you don't look into it, count on me. There's a library. We don't need new libraries because we don't have any money, but we can get those when we want them. And we get new schools. Can't take care of some of the schools that are already here. We're going to get new roads. We're not going to get new roads. We can't take care of them. But this should be clear to everybody who is not here and had to work, but will tune in and will listen to all the people that did show up to pay attention. Because like I say, we don't get paid. I don't know if the people in the red shirts understand they're not paid to sit in here, but all you all are, our commissioners are, and our staff are, and we need to be careful how we're spending our money. That's why I'm up here. But I'm very concerned whenever developers and their lawyers sit here through all of this meeting. They're getting paid while they're sitting here. Oh well, that's the way life is. So enjoy your money. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, Charlie Hunt, Mill Creek Estates. It's getting close to the end of the fiscal year, so what's the reserve in our account left? I mean, I know we have some for the rainy day issues. Is this not a rainy day? Is this the freaking county that's happening, that's being slaughtered? Okay. Where's the reserve? Because, yes, even though I got told it's not right, it's not good for what I did, questioning the commissioner comment portion on a meeting where just out of the blue, $125,000 check was given out. So, yeah, so if you got the ways and the means of doing it like that, why don't you dig it out of the reserves? What is the county? Is it 2 or 5% of the budget reserves for rainy days? Rainy days, you know? I mean, I know we had the whole budget briefing, but what is it? And if the county's using all the money up right now, obviously our financial department needs to get replaced. The Adler Creek portion, that came up years ago. Even before Adler Creek was coming up, it was called Steeplechase. For a lot of people don't know about it. It never made it. Adler Creek didn't make it. So now with looking at the plans of bringing in from 16 down, cutting it into the back of Grand Lakes, out there off of Passetti Road. Okay, that's a good way. That's Passetti people right there. Okay, as mentioned before, Chris Shee, you know, he's got a lot of money. He gave it, you know, hundreds of $1,000s or so. I mean, I know it was over 15, probably for each election cycle for 3 of the 5 up here. So, you know, let's not get in his way by no means, because he might not like us again, even if we help them out. So what I'm saying is, we know what's going on. We know what's going on. This thing, it was signed on the 20th, and yes, the 21st of April, it was being brought out. And I look at the results and look back, I didn't see a lot of other ones up there who want to point blame at Commissioner Joseph of her not knowing it, and the other ones, they kept their mouth shut because they didn't want it. They didn't know anything about it either. I guarantee that's what it is, babe. Okay, that's the way it is. You people work for the county.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment at this time?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Good to see you all this morning.
Your name and address, please.
I apologize. Ellen Avery Smith, Rogers Towers, 100 Whetstone Place. I realize that you are having a hearing about the injunction. We are not here to talk about any specific agricultural enclave application that has been filed, but I just want to correct the record because there was a misstatement of fact made about the application that our firm filed. The requested application is for 1 unit per acre, not 6 units per acre. And I will just reserve any other comment until we have our public hearing, which is already scheduled for August 19th. And I appreciate the attention. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, are there any other public comments at this time on agenda item number 2? Seeing none, we will close public comment.
Back to the board, Commissioner Joseph.
Yeah, I had a question. So if we're not going to vote on the injunction for 2 weeks, I think we're wasting 2 weeks. We can't say we want an injunction right now. I mean, the 18th is the day before we hear the 19th. I mean, don't you think that we need one right, like, it's approve that getting done like now? If our attorney, Mr. Commando, can get it done?
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, first off, I think what clearly we have heard from the residents and so many people. We hear you loud and clear, and I couldn't agree more. I think maybe there are a couple more coming in Orange County. No other county in this state, out of the 65 counties that SB 686 is affecting, are being as detrimentally affected as St. Johns County. We are not St. Doormat's County, we are St. Johns County, and we do need to fight back. And the fact that some people are saying 6, there's actually closer to 8 already, at least 7, I know of 8, there may even be more of these agricultural enclaves that are going to be affecting our county. But you're right, we heard about the dire strait that our aquifer is in, and we are talking about millions, billions of dollars actually, and thousands. So I agree with the cost benefit. We can't afford to not do anything, and we need to do something as soon as possible.
Thank you. Commissioner
So can we amend that so that we go ahead and approve it?
I don't support amending that. I support finding out 2 things. I want to do a cost benefit analysis, and I want to find out through the attorneys the viability of success. Because if every attorney we talk to says there's no way we have standing and there's no way to win it, then what's the point of spending the money for it? So
Mr.
I
Chair.
wouldn't mind taking, look, I don't mind taking a couple weeks to answer some of these questions. It doesn't mean that I'm not in support of it. It just means that I want to answer some of these questions.
Mr. Chair, I'll follow whatever the direction of the commission is. Just so we're clear, a cost-benefit analysis is an analysis that determines whether or not the money you're spending is worth it. That's really a decision for you. I don't know that a law firm's going to give you that. I believe you're seeking a cost estimate so that you can then conduct your cost-benefit analysis.
Can you answer my
But I'll
question?
ask for whatever you
Cost
want.
estimate sounds good too.
Can I have an answer to my question though?
Yes, go ahead.
Is it too late we vote on an injunction on the 18th? Isn't that too late? We're hearing everything the 19th? Doesn't this have to be decided right now?
Just because you're hearing the applications on the 18th, I don't believe that's when you have to come to a decision.
Well, we're having a meeting the 18th. We're hearing everything the 19th. So if we vote for an injunction on the 18th, does it matter that we're hearing everything the 19th?
You would still move forward with the process until an injunction's in place.
So what does that do? If an injunction happens after we hear it and everything, it goes backwards, or?
It would stop the process. Right, so filing a lawsuit, that doesn't stop the process. A court has to enter an order that granting, I would imagine, an emergency temporary injunction. So if a court enters that order, that's what stops the process.
And we can't get that before the 19th.
I don't know if a court's going to grant it or not.
At least put it in, right?
Right, but what I'm telling you is even if you put it in today, that doesn't necessarily stop the process. Filing it doesn't stop it.
All right, well, if you can't find an attorney, please talk to Russell and Russell, okay? To do that, please. Thank you.
Okay. You can come, and I keep pushing this button. You can come here and speak if you would like. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple of questions for the county attorney, but before I ask, it should be noted that the county is currently involved in 4 lawsuits. We are being sued by 4 different developers currently from having denied projects. So what's at stake, at least for the commissioners up here who know what's going on, it's not just the money that we stand to lose by getting into a new lawsuit. which will be, a substantial amount of money potentially, we are already being sued by 4 separate developers from denying projects. The developers are stating that we're not adhering to Florida's private property rights laws. That's their assertion in the lawsuits. Obviously, I feel we made the correct decision in denying those projects, but we are at risk of losing a lot of money if we lose those 4 lawsuits that already exist from developers who are suing this board, this county, your taxpayer dollars, because we denied those projects. So now we're contemplating getting into another lawsuit that, given the feedback that I've heard, given what's already in Florida Statute 163, if you read Florida Statute 163, there's preemption after preemption, there's erosion of home rule after erosion of home rule, all throughout Florida Statute 163, which should tell you it is constitutional. Those laws have been reviewed and have been deemed constitutional. SB 686 is really just another law under Florida Statute 163, and we want to get into another lawsuit, putting St. Johns County residents' taxpayer dollars, which are finite and precious, at risk. Through the chair, will the county be, to Mr. Commander, will the county be required to post a bond when it files a lawsuit seeking an injunction?
There's a possibility of having to post a civil bond.
So the answer is it's possible we'd have to post a civil bond. Would that bond include covering potential damages to the property owners from the applications that have been found by staff to comply with SB 686?
It could encompass all applications. It's generally a protection to keep people acting in good faith. But yeah, there's a possibility that you would have to post a civil bond as part of your cost.
I've got no issue moving forward to explore, whether or not this is legally viable. I've got serious doubts. So again, if it's to move forward and explore the legal viability, nobody's happy about being preempted up here. I've been speaking against preemptions for 6 years on this board, and I will continue to do so. I am just concerned that the county, it's not a good strategy to run headlong into a brick wall again and again and again. I think perhaps a better use of our time would be encouraging Kim Kendall to read bills before she votes on them.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just feel the need to correct the record. Each member of this board received an email briefing us on several bills, including this specific bill from county administration and our Office of Intergovernmental Affairs in March. Again, that's a matter of public record. So to sit up here and say we didn't know about it or you didn't know about it is something I find patently false. I also would like to address the gentleman who referred to the rumors being spread on social media about a private meeting I had with Tom Leake while we were all in Tallahassee and why this board's group meeting was perhaps canceled. I did not have a private meeting with Tom Leake. Senator Leake and I presented to a large group of people on the Senate floor about the county's journey towards securing the Black History Museum. There were staff there, there were countless volunteers there, there was another commissioner in the room, there are photos and timestamps. There was no clandestine meeting where backroom deals were taking place, and every member of this board had been informed of Senate Bill 686 at, I would say, the latest March 24th. My understanding is the meeting was canceled with this board because of some of the vile social media comments being spread about Senator Leake by a commissioner's husband. So, wanted to get that one off my chest. This board was in fact informed of this bill in March. Again, matter of public record. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Joseph.
Yes, I do remember Commissioner Whitehurst bringing it up in May. So why would not there's such a big home rule issue, why wouldn't anyone even have a discussion of it in their commissioner comments if they saw that? Also, why am I believing anything you have to say? Okay, second of all, Commissioner Taylor
let's try not to do that.
Is awesome, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, well, let me just kind of go and and kind of to your comments, Commissioner Arnold, it's very possible that I got an email in May, and I probably should have done a better job of this. So I'm not going to say that I didn't know, or that there's not an email somewhere that I should have known. It's very possible that I should have known. I've been thinking about it's an interesting job we have, and there's a lot of things going on at the same time, and so it's very possible that I dropped the ball on that. And the news media came to me and interviewed me and asked me if I knew, and I said, well, whether I knew or not, it's my responsibility as the chair. I should have known. I should have known. I should have, and so I'll take responsibility for that. We were fighting the blue ribbon bill, and in discussions with the people that bring these bills forward, their comments to me were, look, a lot of times bills sit dormant until the last couple of weeks, and it's possible that things can get by us because my focus is St. Johns County, and I have made it a personal endeavor to be a lot more aware of what's going on the Tallahassee and the federal front going forward. So that's my commitment to you. My apology for missing this, and just saying that I'm going to work harder. So, Commissioner Whitehurst, anything else before we vote?
No, sir.
Okay, let's vote. This vote is to go forward with a cost analysis, not a cost-benefit analysis, because I understand the difference now in what we need. We need a cost analysis about what, and I would like for you to speak with these to find out the viability of a lawsuit going forward. So, injunction going forward. Okay, thanks. Let's vote. Somebody was way ahead of us. Okay, we got, is that 5? Hey, that passes unanimously. Great job. Great job, board. Thank you for this discussion. Thank you all in the audience for coming and telling us how you feel. This has been a passion day, and I'm proud of the fact that we allow people to speak their minds the way we do. Someone said something about Jerry. It might have been you that said something about we have these meetings in the morning. Meetings in the mornings are generally scheduled because a lot of times these meetings can run till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and if we start at 6, we're up to midnight, and we still have a staff that works a day shift. I'm not opposed going forward to have nighttime meetings. I don't have a problem with that, but we want to make sure that we're not keeping people up until midnight. So thank you for that. Let's move on to Commissioner reports. Commissioner Arnold, do you have anything that you would like to add in your report?
Nope, nothing to report today. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Joseph.
I don't have anything except that I'm disappointed that we can't get an injunction in now and then go forward to protect our county.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Whitehurst.
Yeah, I've got a couple of items. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago during Commissioner reports, I was paying close attention to the comments that were made, and some good points were raised. Commissioner Joseph just asked the question, why would anybody trust Commissioner Arnold? So it's with that in mind. Tom, if you'd please pull up the video.
How about the lamp? How about we take the lamp extra money that Henry Dean wants to do, and let's give that to the police officers as a raise?
So I'm not asking that we need to go that far, but I would love to get consensus to go quite a bit more than the 500,000. Well, I think that's what we need to look at. I mean, where can we cut that? But this is the number one priority to our residents.
Absolutely. I'm
Number one
curious
priority.
how we're going to pay for
So
it.
this has to be a priority.
It is a priority.
Yeah.
We've given
I
lamp
just gave
every year. I'm just curious. I would like an answer as to how you propose to pay for it.
And I know that we can be more efficient, and I know that President Trump asked for Doge, Governor DeSantis asked for Doge, and I think we have to follow suit, and it's really important to our county that we show that we're doing what the people want. And look, I was knocking on doors. There's not a lot of people who can even afford the extra $100. I mean, it's a tough time for everyone right now with the utilities going up, with our garbage fee going up, with the water fees going up, and frankly, cable's going up. So I'm sorry. I just think we should be committed to our constituents, and I think this is a great happy medium, and I am not supporting that.
That's a great point. You mentioned the constituents. We've sat here for the better part of this year, and every constituent who's come to these microphones is asking for more services. They're asking for more traffic enforcement. They're asking for e-bike enforcement. They're asking for drainage infrastructure. They're asking for more staff services. And you fund all of those constituent demands. We want to represent the people. The people, I listen to the people. The people have been telling us at these microphones all year that they want more from our county government. And you have to fund that. Commissioner Taylor, you wanted more funding for LAMP. We have funded LAMP to the tune of $2 million the past 2 fiscal years, but we can't do that if we're cutting the budget. We can't get more funding for conservation and cut the budget at the same time. Commissioner Taylor, you were lamenting the cutting of LAMP funding. I mean, you were in the majority in cutting the property taxes, and the LAMP funding was a victim of that property tax cuts, right? That was a conscious decision to cut the LAMP funding. It was discussed. Commissioner Arnold and I kind of suggested maybe we should keep the LAMP funding. We worked hard to get it up to $2 million per year. So now it's at $500,000 per year for the conservation fund that we did have, which could be used just to leave the green space green. And obviously that fund was cut. So that was well within everybody's control. That was a policy decision that was made.
Our residents, when asked what is most important to you, that is what they said: preservation and conservation. So to be honest, I think this fee is long overdue, and that is where that's coming from.
So how do you reconcile that statement with the policy decision to cut the land acquisition and management program funding?
Because the LAMP was coming from our property taxes and that.
So they say they're going to save the trees, but the votes during the last 3 fiscal years' budgets have been to cut the funding for our conservation program here in St. Johns County. Saying one thing, doing another thing. At the last county commission meeting, they voted to roll back the millage rate, which cuts the LAMP fund from the budget. So I thought everybody should understand that while saying that you want to save the trees and cutting the funding for saving the trees, all that matters is that you're cutting the funding for saving the trees. Those are the 3 fiscal years. So 3 years in a row, our conservation fund has been under attack by the commissioner who's saying that she wants to conserve St. Johns County. So I thought that was important to state. A second item on my report is, Tyler, if you'd please put a photo up. We talked about trust at the last meeting and shattering trust and breaking the public trust. During last year's special election, Commissioner Murphy was assigned to the canvassing board. The canvassing board is comprised of a county judge, the supervisor of elections, and 1 county commissioner. Commissioner Murphy was assigned to the canvassing board. One of the rules that is stated to every member of the canvassing board at the outset of your duties is you cannot campaign for or against anybody on a ballot. That is a hard and fast rule. I don't know if it's a law, but I know that Vicki Oakes does a good job of informing everybody on the canvassing board that you may not campaign for or against anybody on the ballot. Commissioner Murphy clearly violated that rule. This is a Facebook post in favor of Randy Fine. I supported Randy Fine. I think he's doing a nice job as a congressman. However, you can't campaign for or against. So Commissioner Murphy then had to be either, I'm not sure if he was removed or if he volunteered to resign or step down from the canvassing board, but I do know that he was unable to finish his duties during last year's special election on the canvassing board because of the violation of that rule. So Commissioner Murphy during this year, for this election cycle, has appointed himself to the canvassing board in spite of that violation of the rule during last year's special election, knowing that there are allegations. I mean, we're making a lot of statements in this auditorium today about allegations. There are allegations swirling around Commissioner Murphy that he may or may not be supporting candidates that are on this year's ballot. So based on last year's violation of the rules on the canvassing board and based on this year's allegations, I'm calling on Commissioner Murphy to resign from this year's canvassing board. And that concludes my report.
Can I please? All right, I think he's finished. If you don't mind, Chair, may
Anything
I?
else, sir?
May I?
Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I'd love to make a comment. It's so silly up here when it's election time that 2 charged commissioners are trying to take the tension away from the people that have been here and supported you and been honest to you. And it's just regarding the LAMP versus conservation. On the 18th, we get to discuss that and see how we can conserve more land. And then what they failed to tell you is regarding the tree ordinance, I had a 14.1 and we only had 3. So we need a third strong, or maybe get Commissioner Murphy on board and change that tree ordinance, because really the developers need to give more buffer and be part of our community going forward. So, you know, whatever.
Thank you.
Commissioner Murphy.
Any comments? Commissioner Taylor?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I don't, first off, I appreciate everyone. I mean, I know if people are watching online, they have no idea what the auditorium looks like and just how full it was this morning. And I want to thank everybody. It was wonderful to see the red and really appreciate it. I couldn't agree more. It is so hard for people to get out during the week, during the day. And the fact that so many people were able to be here, it says a lot. It really says a lot. And just know that I'm sorry for those that have left already, but I gratefully appreciate everybody that's here today in support of that. I would just like to give one final, and especially now after another day of hearing from so many of our constituents. And one thing that was really important that was mentioned is that for everybody that spoke out today, you know there are many, 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 many people in our county that feel the exact same way. But many people have jobs and they are not able to be here during the day, during the week. So to insult those people, I would never do that, because not everybody has the flexibility to be here. But I would like, just for one more time, in response to so many people that spoke out loud and clear, I'd like to ask again, Commissioner Arnold, Commissioner Whitehurst, will you do the right thing and step down as our constituents have asked again?
Anything else?
Okay. Well, no answer. All right. That says a lot. Just in closing, I do want to address as well, this is tied to SB 686, and I do think there was a huge breakdown in communication within our county. We spend a lot of money retaining external lobbying firms, and we hire them to keep us abreast of things and that. And I do think that with everything that happened in SB 686, they did not properly inform us. They had many opportunities to do that, and I would like to take a look at the timeline of everything that happened, and I don't think this was a small oversight, and I want to look closer into those contracts, into those lobbying contracts. And I would love to get consensus for staff to review our contracts and actually review all the communications on this, and let's bring that forward. But I've heard from a number of people, this is too important, and the fact that we are spending over $250,000 on lobbyist companies, I don't feel they have the best interest of our county at hand. So I don't know if I have support, but.
I don't know.
I'm always willing to look at transparency. I don't have a problem with transparency at all. I want to make sure that I understand what you're asking, though.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking us to do what?
I would like staff to review the contracts.
Okay. That's easy.
All of
What
our
else?
contracts, and actually provide a full timeline of communications regarding SB 686, and identify, where exactly the breakdown did happen.
Is that a motion?
I think she's asking for consensus.
I don't
Is
think
that-
we're getting it. So
Okay, well,
is that
and
a
if we
motion?
don't,
I'm
if we
seconding
don't have
it.
consensus, then I will make a motion for
Well,
staff to
why don't-
review our
Why don't we
lobbyists.
see about why don't we figure out that we can do we can do what she's asking? Is that something that we can go back and look for through the timeline of 686?
I'm sure we can.
I don't have a problem with that. Are you okay? You're okay? You're okay? Yeah. Okay. There you go. You got it.
Okay, great.
What else?
Thank you very much, and that will do it. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Let's see. Poke in the eye with a stick. Serve as your chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm not sure which one's more painful today. But I can tell you that, thank you, Commissioner Whitehurst. I say thank you because you brought up something about the canvassing board and the special election for Randy Fine. I did, out of a zeal for wanting to keep our president from being impeached over and over and over again for the last 2 years. I did come out in opposition to the rules and support Randy Fine in the special election. I did, and because of that grievous error, I had to resign from the canvassing board. This particular board this year needs a representative from the Board of County Commissioners, from the judiciary, and then from Vicki Oates' office. And what I discovered is that there's no one else qualified on the board to serve on the canvassing board but me. I'm the only one that can do it. We've got 2 people that have already endorsed, and because of the rules, I have not endorsed. I have not come out publicly or privately, endorsed or funded or campaigned or did any of that stuff for anybody and anything that's going to be on the election, that's going to be on your ballot, either in August or in November. And I haven't done that because of my, I don't want Vicki Oates mad at me. It's really what it is, because she will get mad at me if I violate that. So I confess that I made an error in judgment last year, and I paid for that by having to step down. Unfortunately, in this election, I'm the only one on the board that can, under the rules, serve. And so I've refused to disqualify myself because of that reason. I think we need someone from the Board of County Commissioners on the canvassing board. I don't have anything else to add, so I noticed that you have your microphone on. Was there something you'd like to?
Yes, so a judge can be appointed to fill your spot. So if there's no commissioners that can serve on the canvassing board, another judge could be assigned. So you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I've had to get the board to assign an alternate for us.
Yeah. So right, we have an alternate for you. You don't have to do the job. The canvassing board would be able to move forward.
Well, I know that, but it's my duty. It's my civic duty to serve on the canvassing board. So I felt it was my responsibility to step up, even though I probably would have had endorsements and would have loved to have supported some of the candidates out there. I refused to because of my commitment to being nonpartisan in these elections and serving on the canvassing board. I think it's important that we have someone there.
Chair Murphy?
Yes, ma'am.
And since I am running in the election, I feel very confident you can do that for our board in a fair manner, and I have noticed you have not gotten involved.
Yeah, thank you for those words. I don't have anything else, so could I go to the administrator's report?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any report other than just wanted to remind the board in terms of our budgeting process that we are going to have a 5:01 p.m. on September 3rd as your first hearing for the tentative millage. And our final hearing is set at 5:01 p.m. On September the 15th. Because of the timing and also the variables about the reform and the scenario budgeting that the staff has been working on, we are planning a workshop on the 1st of September board meeting, just so we can talk about the scenario budgeting and look for your directions on how we can bring you something on the 3rd of September. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Commando.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Robinson with our office has been keeping you up to date with a number of litigation issues. One of them is the Robinson matter, which is going to be coming up for a mediation on Friday, August 14th. We're required to have someone sit in from the Board of County Commissioners. Traditionally, it's the chair that would sit in on that mediation. So if y'all would designate the chair to be the representative for that.
Okay. Well, we need to designate the chair as the representative for the Robinson matter on Friday, the August 14th. Okay.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Anything else? Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's time. I know that it's not even 12 o'clock yet, so thank you so much. We're adjourned.